All right, so I want to welcome everyone to the Latin Horror, Folklore, and Fantasy panel here at Long Beach Comic Con. My name is Peter J. Malini. I'm the founder of the East LA Comic Book Art and Pop Culture Expo. And I'm your moderator today. All right, so let's get started here. Now, I'm terrible with names and pronouncing names, so let's just have everyone introduce themselves.
Sure. I'm Eric Esquivel. I write a book for Vertigo called Bordertown, and what I'm talking about today is Phantasmagoria, the new comic with Starburns that I co-created with this young man right here.
Hey, I'm James Fino, and I'm one of the partners of Starburns, and this spring I had the pleasure of meeting with Eric, and we co-created Phantasmagoria.
And I'm Miguel Angel Acedo, and I just met these two, but I think I'm going to be good friends with them, and I've known Peter for almost 15 years now.
Nice, there we go. All right, so let's start. The word horror is very subjective, especially in mainstream media. What does horror mean to you? Like, what does it mean? Yeah.
I think horror is where the known meets the unknown, right? Mm-hmm. It's whatever you're afraid of. It's the dark. It's the forest. It's what's under the water, under the bed. So for Latinx folklore, it's really fun to present stuff in our culture that a lot of people don't know about. Because I think people are scared of just generally Mexicans right now. Yeah. Which that's pretty politically horrible. So to talk about our monsters and what we're afraid of is fun. It's a way to share our culture. And I love the Krampus. Do you guys know the Krampus? And that's like a Germanic myth, and I'm not German, but I love that creature. So my hope is that with books like ours, where we're sharing like our folklore, people, no matter what walk of life you're from, you can be into it. Like the Duendes are amazing, Santa Muerte is amazing, El Cucuy still scares the bejesus out of me. So yeah.
Yeah, and I guess for me, the horror has always been something that's supernatural, something. For me, since my grandmother taught me how to do my prayers in English and in Spanish every night, anything having to do with the devil or the forces of evil versus good. And so for me, anything dark like that had a supernatural force, but not necessarily scary. They were kind of like sometimes could be just something that could inspire you to be good, to be a good person and not dwell into the darkness. But for me, a lot of the primal horror came from, I think, from the early years of just my grandparents scaring me to behave.
Did your grandma tell you like the devil was watching you all the time?
Yeah. Even my grandmother would buy these potted underwood potted meats and stuff, and it had a little red devil on it. I would go, "Look, Mom, look, honey, that's the devil." He said, "Yeah, he's watching you. You better behave."
It's like the worst Santa Claus ever.
Yeah, I think for me, I'm going to echo what I just heard here, because I think those are great definitions of what horror is. But for me, horror has always been about curiosity, like something as basic as like, hey, does that girl like me back? You know, it's a horrific thing to think that maybe she doesn't, or she thinks I'm a complete weirdo or psycho, right? So I think horror comes from, I think what Eric said, the unknown, but even more so the curiosity to look behind the curtain or open up that closet door or take a chance in life, right? So I think the best horror that anybody can create, whether you're Latino, German, whatever it is just like...
Just those two. Just those two. Sorry, I was
just explore what's natural, what's innate, what's human, right? So to me, that's what horror is.
Yeah, in the early days, when I was young, in the 70s, in the early days compared to you guys, but going to English-speaking school and things like that, I'm from El Paso, Texas, and so we have a lot of Mexicans there. But growing up, it was not something that was, my parents spoke English at home. They didn't speak Spanish, but they wanted me to speak proper English, and they wanted me to blend in. And so that's kind of how it was. And I always kind of felt that the stories that my grandparents told me were kind of like these, like a secret underground, variety of stories that the kids at school didn't know about. I thought it was like we were a secret organization and all that these kind of stories only happened to us. And when I later found out, like, no, that each culture has their own versions of that, I got so happy because then I really dove into like trying to explore that.
It makes me feel more real though too, because like you don't see like La Llorona on Buffy, and you don't see like El Cucuy and Supernatural, right? So like it feels like maybe it's real. I know Dracula's fake, but I'm not sure about Santa Muerte. And like, and horror, like as a kid, it's a way to test your bravery too. Yeah. And like if a kid like if a kid feels like they can take on like a monster, or they can survive a horror movie or a horror comic, then they can take on like their local Make America Great Again bully, right? Like if you can take Santa Muerte, you can take Donald Trump. Like there's worse things out there that's scary, and it gives you that courage. It's training for you to handle the world, right? Because the world is scary. It's scary to be Latino right now. It's really scary, but we can take it.
And the scary thing for kids is one element I think is missing from a lot of kid stuff these days that I wish would be more prevalent, like the old Disney classics, like Snow White and Pinocchio, and they had like scenes that were terrifying to kids, but you would always get through it. At the end, it was a happy ending, and you felt like really good walking out of the theater after experiencing one of those. And so I think kids need to experience more, a little bit of darkness, so they can work their way through it and get out to the other side.
So we babysit too. We're pitching for our new babysitting program. We'll traumatize your kids, look them out tougher. It's not true.
It's always interesting, especially in Latino families. Like you have kids that are afraid of these monsters. There's also like older people that are way more scared. You know, and it's interesting.
My friend punched me in the jaw because I said skinwalkers.
Oh,
like,
really?
if you say their name, they can hear you. And I just kept saying it like an idiot, and you just clocked me in the jaw.
Wow.
And I was like, you know what? I almost killed us. I deserve that.
You almost killed us, right?
Yeah.
Well, I think what makes Latino horror very special is that unlike other ethnic groups or, you know, teachings or fables coming from other peoples, Latin really kind of connect to the supernatural. They really hold on to superstitions, right? And at the same time, that's what makes Latin horror, fantasy, and folklore very beautiful, right? Whereas other cultures, they fear death, right? Latin culture, they embrace it, like Day of the Dead, right? It's a moment for you to kind of remember your family, your friends, but it's also a time for community and connecting, right? So, you know, talking about those older people that also fear like the devil or, you know, like Rona or Kukui, right? It's because they hold on to that tradition. I think that's what makes Latin horror, fantasy, and folklore so strong and prevalent these days.
And like what James said, the people who taught me about like Jesus and the Virgin Mary taught me about like El Cucuy and Los Duendes and also like Spider-Man. So I never knew what was real and what wasn't.
Well, it's all real.
So Santa's not real, but Jesus is, and then like so the Cucuy like in the middle here, and like so it's terrifying, and it's like a real mythology. And then it's still evolving too, like stuff like Santa Muerte is like a pretty modern myth. Yeah. And like so that's exciting. There's like modern creations and deities and gods like coming out still.
Yeah,
so because they're real.
Like my grandma mentioned before, Nani, she would take care of me, and in the afternoon she would watch As the World Turns, General Hospital, and Dark Shadows. And then to me, that was so cool that my grandmother loved these stories about vampires and werewolves, and you know, and but also she was the one who taught me about God and the devil. So like Eric was saying, it all blended together that this woman had these amazing stories always ready to tell us, and she would in the summertime outside on the porch by our nectarine tree with her tecate and her lime, and she would just sit us around and tell us these stories lit only by the glow of a nearby refinery, which was creepy in itself. But that was like the story circle that my grandmother kind of just created, and we would listen and then run into the house afterwards because if we stayed out, the men who wandered up and down the alley looking for stray little boys to take away would come and get us. So she was a good storyteller.
Yeah, because there's like little like fairy tale, not fairy tale, like rhymes, but they talk about like if you don't behave, this guy's gonna come get you, and stuff like that. But what kind of stuff like that growing up? What type of stories like that stuck with you guys?
Oh man, the Lorona, like everybody has a different origin story for how she came to be. Yeah. But she for sure just drowns kids, right? Yeah. Like that was the important part. So that was exciting. My aunt had a pool, and I got threatened that I'd get drowned in that pool all the time. Because I never wanted to go to sleep. I was always up like playing with G.I. Joes and reading comic books. So they're like, if you don't go to sleep, I can't be held responsible if you get drowned by a ghost. Like, oh my god, well, I'm gonna grow up awesome. So, yeah. So that was fun.
I think for me it was El Cucuy that my grandma and my other grandma would tell me about El Cucuy being out at night. So it was kind of, it was the opposite of Santa Claus, who would like give you stuff if you behaved. The Cucuy was waiting for you if you didn't behave, and he would run just outside your window ready to break in. So that would terrify me. Yeah.
Very healthy, very healthy.
Yeah, for me it was the duendes. Like the more I think about it, it's like I really, really I believe in duendes. I'm just going to say it, right? But the duendes, right? When I was a little kid, I would want to see them. I'd be like, I want to see duendes, you know, because there's these little magical people walking around and doing stuff. But then you learn like, oh, they're mischievous, right? Like, so they're gonna fuck around with you. You gotta be careful, right? So it's like they could be your best friend one moment, they could be your worst enemy, right? So it's just after a while, I didn't want to see the duendes, right? I won't say if I've seen one in my life, but I think there's a couple of people in this panel that might have seen some,
That's
right?
right. Did you know that in Mexico, in northern Mexico, there are places still where if you can prove that you were sold an apartment or a house where there are duendes in the walls, you can break your lease?
Yeah.
And it's like, it's still on the books. You gotta like
Yeah, yeah.
find one. It's amazing. And then in Arizona, there's a variant of them called the pichilingis. And there are duendes where they speak to you in the sound of your own voice and just like tell you to burn shit and like poke your sister. So you can blame like schizophrenia on duendes or like man, mom, sorry that I didn't watch the dog. Pichilingi told me not to. And, like, yeah, they talk to you in the sound of your own voice.
That's almost like the idea of a doppelganger, right? Like
Yes,
where you
yeah.
see yourself or you see someone that you know and they tell you something, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Like Venom.
Yeah, there you go. Right.